Good morning and welcome to the IDLA webinar. That's the Innovative District Leadership Academy. My name is Kate O'Connor and I'm the Assistant Dean for Professional Development in the Rossier School of Education at the University of Southern California. Joshua?
Hi, I'm Dr. Joshua Sargent. I'm the Educational Program Designer for the USC Rossier School. Actually, Tim, if you go to the next slide, that'll be our slide.
Thank you.
There we are. There's our beautiful campus. Here we are at the Office for PD, and I'm just excited to be here. And I think, Kate, are you going to talk a little bit about what professional development does?
I am indeed. So professional development is the arm of the Rossier School of Education that deals with credential and certificate programs. And we cover a wide range of educators from pre-service teachers all the way up through urban superintendents. In the course of the professional development that we have provided, we have learned many things during the past 18 months. The primary mission of the Rossier School of Education is to promote educational equity in research, policy, and practice. And in the course of that practice, one of the things that we saw was the egregious gap in equity, particularly in digital equity. So we have been facing week after week this dilemma because we've learned a lot over the course of the pandemic, and we need to carry that learning forward. Just at the moment where we were thinking carefully about how we wanted to approach strategically the problem of digital equity, we were approached by Tim Watrous and Digital Advisors through one of our own faculty members, as a matter of fact, who had a successful program with a 5-year track record. And we realized that this partnership was the perfect partnership at the perfect time with an absolutely necessary program. So with that said, I'm going to toss it over to you, Tim, and you can give us a little bit of an overview of the program and the why.
And that's the next slide. There we go.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate. I'll catch on quickly, but thank you for the prompt, Joshua. Keep them coming. So Tim Watrous, been President of Digital Advisors, been in the education technology space for 25 plus years. Worked for big companies you may know like Scholastic and Cisco Systems. I left about 5 years ago, left that space to do good things in education, and one of those was to start Digital Advisors. As a company, we support school districts by bringing in the top technology talent from Silicon Valley and opening that up to single schools, 10 schools, 100 school districts, helping them with triage, putting out fires regarding tech, buying new equipment, for example, cybersecurity challenges, you name it. And one other thing that we do is professional learning for non-technical and technical leaders around leading through technology. So what we're certainly here to talk about today. And really the essence of this course, like the why it was created, is because technology touches more of our lives every day, and our work lives within the school district, technology touches each department more each day. And school districts are facing more and more complex challenges. So when you think about a complex challenge is, once something gets beyond one department in a school district, and it involves technology, now you have multiple decision makers and stakeholders that need to be involved in solving that challenge. And that's where we've actually seen a lot of failure points. Probably many of the folks on this call have seen that in their career to a certain degree. So what we do is we basically take teams of leaders from school districts, we expose them to proven best practices in the business world, things like planning templates, resources, thought leaders, expertise, and we actually have that team of leaders pick a problem in their district, and we work throughout the course to solve that challenge using these tools. Now the great thing is, once you get on the other side of the course, not only have you solved a real challenge in your district, you built this collaborative leadership skill set, but now you're ready to face and tackle any challenge that pops up. And in the last year and a half, we've learned that many challenges will continue to arise. So having that skill set, I think, brings a lot of peace to troubling times. So hopefully that's a good enough explanation to get us started, Kate.
Okay, great. Joshua, on to you.
Yeah, if you look at the next slide, then please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the course structure that we have put our heads together. So again, DA and USC coming together. We have settled in on, it's a 1-year course with the idea that there will be 2 live meetings, probably Zoom, but we'll see, maybe WebEx, per month, which gives us a cycle of 4 weeks. So Tim, next slide, please. actually the next one after that as well. So the first week is what we're calling the research week. That is it's asynchronous. So meaning we provide materials that could be videos, it could be readings, it could be any variety of information, and every participant and the team is then consuming those at their own pace. So some people might want to speed up videos, some people might want to pause and go and look something up or anything they want to do. You're consuming all that content in that first week. The next phase is the interactive workshop. So here we're coming together live as a group of teams to really make sense, to talk through what we've been reading and watching and hearing about, think about how it applies in all of our different contexts, make sure we all have an understanding of the material. That leads us into week 3, which is the group work. So now we're breaking off into our individual groups. Usually it's going to be one district as one group, and really applying what you've been learning and thinking about and talking about to your actual district and your problem of practice that you're working on throughout the whole year. And that culminates in the last week of each cycle, which apparently is gone. There it is, the presentation workshop. So that's basically every group is coming and sharing to everyone else what they've been doing, how they're applying, how they're making sense of what they've been doing, and learning from each other, bouncing ideas off of each other. So that's one full cycle. It's in general going to be a month. So it's going to be 4 weeks, more or less, with some calendar differences. But there will be 12 of these cycles, and that will complete the entire program. And at the end, each district will have one project that they have worked on and come up with a solution for and will have finished. But really the goal is not to have just solved that one problem. It's to have practiced the innovative mindset to solve any kind of problem that come up, and also to have seen everyone else in all the other groups, how they have solved their problems, so that you can, good teachers steal, great teachers pillage. So that's it. All right. So I don't want to talk too much. I will talk all day about the instructional design. And so, Kate, I think we need to get to our panel here.
Absolutely. The most important part of this webinar, in fact, are the panelists who are alumni of the program and also in some cases faculty in the program. So I'm going to start with introductions. They will introduce themselves. Heather, can we start with you?
Sure. Just checking that you can hear my sound. Hi, I'm Heather Olson. I'm the superintendent in Pacifica School District, and I was in the program when I was assistant superintendent in San Mateo Foster City School District.
Thank you. Jerry?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jerry Abendad, superintendent of Santa Ana Unified School District, and I was in, I believe, the second cohort of the program when I was superintendent in Colton Joint Unified School District a number of years ago.
Great. Welcome. Holly?
And good morning, everyone. My name is Holly Eads. I'm the superintendent of the Orchid Union School District. I was part of the first cohort, the very first year. I came in as an assistant superintendent of educational services when I was asked to come back as faculty, and I've been on faculty for the past 4 years of the program.
Thank you. So we've devised some questions that we think will provide the participants with a good understanding of what the program is, the value, and the impact that the program has had. So I'm going to direct the first question to you, Heather. How has the program impacted your career in terms of the network and also the interface with industry experts and thought leaders?
I'm happy to answer that because if you notice, all three of us are now in different jobs. And so just whether that's in different districts or I never thought I was going to be a superintendent. That wasn't really an ideal job for me. So I thought I was going to be an ed services person in charge of curriculum and technology for the rest of my life. And I was really something about the program helped me see a bigger picture and think about how to bring schools into a more modern integrative technology situation. And so it really did impact that. The second piece that has impacted my career is if you spend any time with Tim Watrous, is like you understand connection and relationships like nobody's business. Like he's a master at it. He's a great communicator. He's crystal clear. You ask him for something, boom, let's set up a meeting and have that conversation. And that's in this job as superintendent, it's from a receiving end, almost an ideal situation, but it's also a great model for service leadership, and your connections will not always be with people that work within your district or that are your colleagues, but he is a great connector. So you know those people in your lives that are amplifiers. Tim Watrous is a great example of that. So just kind of like, here's how I want to help the world, and I think the world needs more people like that.
Thank you. Jerry, do you have anything to add to that? The impact of the program in terms of networking and thought leaders?
Absolutely. You know, one of the reasons why I did this, and I started the program when I was a sitting superintendent in my previous district, was as I was going through the superintendency, just kind of occupying the different spaces at the county level, at state level, realizing that there was an untapped need out there to prepare for this 21st century environment, now 22nd century environment. And real quickly did I learn that not too many people were operating in that space. And that worried me because I worried what the value of me as a superintendent would be to any district that is looking for a superintendent. And so when I heard of the first cohort going out and I started to follow it online and started talking to my colleagues that were a part of it, I got real curious and really sad that I missed the first cohort, but was able to join the second one. But not only myself, I brought some of my executive cabinet members because I figured if I'm going to go on this journey, I need a support network to make sure that we actually come back with ideas and begin to implement those ideas. And very quickly, did I realize that this is a unique space to operate in as a superintendent and a governance team. You would think that a lot of districts are in this space. A lot of districts say they are, but at the governance level, I would push back and really challenge that they're really in this 21st century or future ready mindset. This program helped me as a superintendent meet with colleagues from all over the country, researchers from all over the country, that fed me current up-to-date trends that were happening in public school systems and in private industry, that gave me ideas to go back to my district and my team and be able to implement some of these things to meet the needs of the younger generation, the younger teachers and the younger students. That's the value and that's the impact that it had on me as a superintendent.
Thank you. Holly, I'm going to change it up a little bit for you. Can you speak to how the program has helped you handle the rapid changes during the pandemic?
Absolutely. And if one of the real core fundamental parts of the program is the ability to innovate and the ability to think outside of the box. And how do you approach problems and problem solving through that lens? So the program presented several different structures and ways to communicate information out, but also really pushed my thinking in the way that I approach problems, and gave me the skill sets that I needed to really look at that from multiple lenses and multiple vantage points. So it absolutely, with this pandemic and daily, if not hourly changes that we've been faced with, just to have that skill set and have that in my tool chest, I've absolutely used it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I have mentioned already that the key mission of the Rossier School is equity in education. And I was wondering if you could speak to how this program has helped you in terms of providing an equitable learning space for all students. Heather.
I don't know that it really changed my mindset, but just again, the continual focus, like this is where you have to start. If this is the most important thing, then it's not an add-on or something that you think at late in the project, but that's what you design your project around, is that it's got to be the first thing, the first place to start, as opposed to trying to layer that piece on or working for a smaller solution. Have it be the solution would be just kind of the way that I think of that.
Well said. Holly, can you add to that?
Yeah, I think just the discussions that we have, many of the sessions were centered around equity and how to really address those issues with equity within our students, both from just a curriculum access, vantage point, but also engagement. And how do we engage those students, those families in meaningful ways to really address their needs at their level, not just assume that we have all of the answers.
I'm so glad that you mentioned all of those stakeholders, because we can tend to be a little bit tunnel vision when we're in the classroom, door closed. Jerry, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but sending multiple teams from the same district is a winning recipe. You know, a single captain does not turn the ship. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm going to tie it into the equity question that you brought up earlier. One of the things that I've discovered, and this is my 13th year as a superintendent, is that the leadership at all levels, so the district level, but the site level is equally as important, and it becomes an equity issue or an inequities when site administrators aren't operating in this space and this with this vision of this 21st century mindset and the vision of making sure that their staffs are in that space as well. So my challenge to my staff that I sent was those of you that are in this space, go with those of you that aren't, and send teams of administrators or principals, because if my principals aren't operating with that mindset, that I can guarantee you that their staffs are not either. You know, the principals at staff meetings would be standing in front of their staffs, direct instruction type of meetings, and feeding them information. Well, that's not what we expect of the classroom teachers or those experiences. So, but I also have principals that are innovative and do that. So how can I break down those barriers and provide access to that type of experience for all kids across the district? And my belief is that you need to do that by sending your site administrators and district teams. And then they need to be combination teams, because if I send a group of first timers, it'll be very easy for them to collectively get that mindset, no, this isn't for me. But if I send a team, a well-mixed team, a well-versed team with somewhat like-minded people, then they're going to do the selling, they're going to see the benefit of it, and they're going to encourage their colleagues to partner up, because we can't do this alone.
Thank you. And in fact, that ties so nicely into a question for Holly, who is a faculty member, and you have seen multiple iterations of teams cycle through the program. Can you share a little bit of your observations?
Yeah, just the amount of growth that happens over the course of the program within the team itself, within the team dynamics. Relationships are so important in what we do. So to provide a structured space where they can work together to solve a problem from their various lenses, as Jerry mentioned, and also their various roles. To have business working with tech, working with site leaders, working with ed services, within their job roles, but also having them reach outside of those so that they learn. We've seen a great number of our former participants move into new roles or advance in their careers, I think as a result of the experiences that they have and the relationships and the connections that they make. There's also that connection between teams. You know, teams learning from each other on what they're doing in their districts or at their school sites. That provided invaluable ideas and innovation where even though a district's working on a totally different problem, when another district that pops up in their district, they have another resource they can reach out to, another thought partner that they can reach out to. So watching the teams interact both within themselves and also interact with other teams was very rewarding, and I want to say that the participants truly appreciated that.
That's so meaningful, and also backs up that collaborative learning that we support so strongly. It's easy to become siloed in your leadership.
Can I just jump in real quick with a
Tim,
quick thought?
absolutely.
And this is wonderful. Thank you all for being here and for attending today. I just want to say that we do have a Q&A in the panel, and if you have a chance and you have a question that's coming to mind, you can chat that in, and we're going to have time available at the end of this for the panelists to answer your questions, or perhaps Joshua or Kate or myself to answer any questions. So if something occurs to you, please pop it in there, and we'll use that to answer some of your questions as we move forward. So please, Kate, continue.
Sure, thank you. Something that has come up is who is this program designed for? And we have had several questions for people who are not necessarily technical people who are, have some trepidation or fear about joining the program. I'll start with Heather and then I'll go to Jerry. What do you think about the mix of tech and non-tech people?
I too was a little bit intimidated about that because not that I wouldn't consider myself a tech person, but I don't understand boxes and wires, and I thought it was going to be much more boxes and wires, and it isn't. It's systems. Which is, as I said, kind of really good training for becoming a superintendent. Is like, what is a system? It doesn't matter whether the system is a network or whether the system is a school district. It's really basically systems thinking. And then I think, like great professional development, it's putting you in touch with experts, people that I would have never thought that I would even be in the same room with, let alone sitting at dinner with or having the opportunity to talk. And I think that's just key to learning, really pushing your thinking way beyond what you thought technology was.
Thank you. Thank you. Jerry, how about you? Can you recommend the program for the non-tech types?
Absolutely. You have you do. There is no requirement to have any tech skills whatsoever when you attend this thing. And I think the value of having a combination of those that do have that background and don't is the opportunity to learn and to grow. And I can't tell you how much I learned. And Heather was an advisor. Holly was an advisor at the time. Thinking as a superintendent with my team, thinking I was headed in one direction, and just by having access to her expertise in her area, it kind of guided me to drift a little bit into a different area that was had much more meaning and much more impact on a greater number of students in my previous district. So, and that couldn't have happened had I not been in that space, and then, going through the program with Heather, I mean, I've known these ladies for a number of years now and have reached out and have many conversations on different occasions for different reasons. But it's just, you have had no experience required, but the wealth and the knowledge that you get and the relationships that are developed and built and lasting are amazing. And I'll just say again, as Heather spoke, I'm part of this program, and I'm here now because of Tim's work and his credibility among the industry is just top notch. And we can't say enough about the program and the innovation and the research that they bring into this is just second to none.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A question that comes up for any participant, any educator who is taking a professional development course is, what is the time commitment? How can I balance my work, my family life, my entire universe that's everyone's on Zoom, everyone's connected. There's a lot of plate spinning, and how am I going to be able to do this? So I'd like to hear from each of you actually as how you managed, how you balanced that between the work demands of your own busy jobs, your families, and also the coursework in the program. Holly, would you like to begin?
Go ahead, Heather.
Okay. I would just, I noticed that I'm going first a lot, so I'm just trying to pay attention to that. So number one is that there's pre-pandemic busy and there's currently pandemic busy, and I think like this level of busyness isn't even comparable to whatever we were busy with before. And being in a virtual space, there's so much access to webinars and professional development. And I think you just have to be really smart about, you can't do it all. So pick things that are going to have the strongest outcome for you, or that would be the most long lasting, like something that's going to like change your career trajectory or change your way of thinking versus learning something small. I think that's huge. The other piece that I say to anyone, and I'm going to say this to my new teachers tomorrow morning, is if you're not invested in your professional development, I mean, most of us became educators because we love to learn. And if you're not invested in that, then you're going to maybe not make the same level of progress, or you're not going to get that that passion or the other piece to that. I think that learning is embedded in us, and you just have to make smart choices because you really, at this point, cannot do it all. But if you're not doing anything, you're not going to move forward.
Yeah, and I'm happy to jump back in. I think for me, work-life balance is a growth area for me personally and professionally. But I will say that this program, because of the nature in its design, it's some of it you're able to set the schedule on when you're going to interface with the material, when you're going to take a look at it. But more importantly, the project that you're going to do as a part of this program is one that currently exists within your district or your school site. So you're getting more bang for your buck because you're working on an existing problem. And I found as a leader, having that dedicated time to really focus on an issue within your district and having that accountability and timelines sometimes pushes me to not only get it finished in a shorter period of time, but also focuses me on the problem itself. With the problem that I chose, just having folks to talk to, bounce ideas off of, helped me take it to a whole other level that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do outside of the program. And I've taken that and applied it to additional problems as well. So it's an investment, but I think one that's well worthwhile and one that will pay off dividends for you.
And I would, repeat that as well, is that if in Tim and the program makes it really flexible in the sense that the encouragement is to already do your project on something that you're already working on and just embed the research into what you're learning into what you're already working on and doing. So I didn't really feel as a superintendent that I was adding anything to my plate. What I did discover, though, is that the original project that I began was not the project that I ended up with. And that was probably more valuable than anything to me as a superintendent, because as I was doing my research to implement my first project, which needed to be done anyway, we discovered through the data analysis that we were collecting that there were inequities in access to AP courses across the district. That jumped out at us as a big red flag. And so we quickly, with Tim's permission, we quickly kind of pivoted to the new direction that had way more impact and was much more meaningful on the outcomes, the student outcomes of the district. And so that it should be something you're already working on and not added a layer of work.
That connects perfectly to, I think, our last idea that I'd like to leave you with, and that is that each group of courses, has been mentioned, will work on their own project that is relative to the context that they're in. But one huge added value is that you're also exposed to those creative projects of all the people around you. So we know that one of the things that relieves stress the most is creativity. So I'd like if you could talk to the exposure you had and the inspiration that you received from viewing and experiencing other people's projects. Holly.
Yeah, for me, and having been a part of the program for 5 years, I have taken more ideas back to my own district, or when we're facing a problem, I know that there are folks who've been through this, who've addressed a very similar problem, and I can go back and I can call them and find out what they've learned. How did they implement it? What worked, what didn't work? What would they do differently? What resources would they call on? So that's been huge for me, and it's why I love to be involved with the program each and every year. Not only does it push my thinking with the thought leaders that are involved with it, but just working with the districts themselves and learning about projects and programs and problems that don't even exist in my district currently, but might exist next year or the following year. So it's not just about the problem solving and approaching a problem and those skill sets to address them and those the approaches, but it's also the problems themselves and the resources that are there. So it's structures and systems, but real life examples.
For me, it was thinking, why didn't I think of that? And being jealous of the fact that there were some pretty cool ideas that were coming out that were really had that strategic foresight of potentially solving problems before they became problems. The other thing that I really enjoyed was when I sent teams as superintendent, these teams would come back excited, fired up about the ideas that they were planning to implement in their respective areas. And a lot of these were principals. So, the hard part for me was finding the funding to provide that support. Now that I give them the opportunity to go, they get excited, and they come back, and they're going to need some resources. But we do our best, and we find those resources because we want to capture that enthusiasm for all of those participants.
Great. Heather?
And I'll just build on both of those answers and say, I think for me, one of the things that was helpful was seeing people in other school districts that had other problems and Bay Area problems. So maybe like, how do you solve an issue around bandwidth in a rural setting? And I think being across the state of California was really very helpful, just seeing the statewide perspective, because we have so many things that are the same, but a few things that are different. And that's helped me moving from a larger school district to a smaller school district, is like how to think of solutions that I didn't even know that would be a problem that I would face.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, panelists, so much for sharing your expertise and your experiences in the program. Tim, is there anything you'd like to add before we go to Q&A?
Yeah, and by the way, everybody, I don't see a question yet, so I'm imagining that everyone's done such a wonderful job of explaining that there are no questions, but if there are, please go ahead and enter them now. And one thing I want to clarify too is we don't really get into bells and whistles and blinky lights, but we do have some moments where we try to cause a little bit of stress and tension for the attendees around some of the blinky lights, so take some of the fear out. And Jerry, I'll put you on the spot here because it was maybe a couple of years ago at Access Soups when you were kind enough to sit on a panel like this when we were all meeting live. And you shared one of those kind of cringy moments for you that had kind of a nice outcome, and those where we sort of like reinforce some of the bigger points that we're trying to make around tech with some fun activity. So I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that, I can give you more hints if you need.
You give me more hints, my friend, because I apologize. There was
No problem.
There were a lot of aha moments. So
no problem. Yeah. So every time we're teaching sort of a big thought, and this happened to be sort of like leveraging the cloud and leveraging things as a service, and we tasked all the attendees to set up their own network, which like we didn't tell anybody that it's coming, and then we just tell them you got to do it, and then you have to compete, right? You're competing with other teams, and like some people are just staring at it, but maybe you talk about what it was like to sort of get that challenge and then face that if you wouldn't mind.
So it was, and I do remember the activity that just blew me away when we did it, but we had to basically put together our own network. And understanding, it was easy in a sense if you know what you're doing, but then it was also interesting in the sense because, you as a superintendent were if you think of the 21st century environment and to become future ready, it's device. But what we're not aware of is the capacity of that bandwidth and the other things that go along with these purchases. So when you purchase platforms or you purchase devices, you may have the most state-of-the-art technology that will go as slow as a turtle in your district because the infrastructure is not set there. So very quickly did I learn at a very early point in my superintendency that I have to think of the systems as Heather was talking about. I have to think of the whole system and not just parts of the system. And where I see a lot of breakdowns is where districts just purchase the equipment and then expect things to work as normal. And what happens in those situations when people aren't thinking of the systems, the teachers will get the devices. They'll either be slow or they'll disconnect. And people get frustrated to the point where they stop using them. So for me, it opened my eyes as at the importance of why we have to look at the big picture, the whole picture, and not just a part of it. Thanks for bringing that memory, that wonderful memory back.
No problem. I didn't want people to think there were going to be no sort of uncomfortable moments, but they're well intended and they turn out to be fun and reinforce some of the big points that we try to drive home. Maybe Holly, do you have any standout exercises that you've seen over time because they evolved and changed a little bit? Anything jump out at you right off the top?
No, I think for me it was just interacting with some of the amazing talent that the program connects itself with. And just people that I've heard speak multiple times pushing me out of my comfort zone and I learn, even though I've heard them multiple times, like I said, I learn something every single time that we're there. And the hands-on problem solving that occurs in the program as well. So just different aspects that it all helps to contribute to that perspective and learning about the systems and structures and how necessary they are.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Holly. And then I guess, Heather, one thing I wanted to just reinforce, I guess, for folks, and then we'll maybe just jump into how to learn more and some of the blocking and tackling of if you want to register, how you would do that. But Heather, you moved to the new district. You talked about being motivated to move to the new district and the new role, and then you sent a team from there, and you're still working with those team members who attended. How did that shift things for you when they came back, and now you have more people on that same page?
Yeah, I think we're, in the middle of COVID. Had we not had that or started that work, we would have been lost, right? It's not like there's any one thing that we can point to, but they went 3 years ago, and then I think it was 2 years ago, and then COVID starts. And we instantly go. So my two goals as the initial superintendent prior to COVID were to integrate technology into instruction and to have parents connected with their teacher around academic means. We wanted parents to be the partners. Well, guess what? It was nothing like a little pandemic to put the parent as the teacher right next door, sitting right next to the child at the kitchen table. And so now the outcome that will come out of that, kind of as a result of having sent a small team to, is that now we can't go backwards. Like there is no going back to normal. Is like we have to build on that experience and move forward. Now we really have to partner with parents and give them very specific information about their child's progress and how we can work together. We're not going back technologically. We were hoping to be one-to-one. Hey, here we are. Now we are. So in many ways, we just looked at some of the challenges of the pandemic and are looking at how we can use those as opportunities in the future.
Tim, can I add to that?
Please.
I tell you what, had I not been through this program, I would have handled COVID completely different. And I think the training that I got and the network that I was able to build as a result of this gave me the confidence as a superintendent, especially in a new large urban district, to be able to navigate this experience of going from in-person to online. I'm not going to lie, it was stressful, it was challenging, but I had the foundational knowledge to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to say yes to things that I had knowledge about and experience with, and to say no to things that I knew were not the trends that we needed to go in. So if anything, I had confidence in navigating this whole situation. It was the ability to navigate it, the digital, platform and the digital transition, and having the strategic foresight to have conversations to get ready for when we come out of it as well.
Thanks for sharing that, Jerry. And yeah, I guess anybody who's interested in learning more about the program, obviously we've heard a lot of great things today. There's more depth on the USC Rossier site under professional development. I put the link in the chat so anyone can click on the website there. We're going to get underway in January. We had originally planned to do the beginning of the school year, but with all the uncertainty and stress around getting back to school, we pushed that to January for January 22nd, I believe, start. So there is some time to sort of socialize this with your friends. I would ask that if you're inspired by what you've heard today, you can help us spread the word. It's tricky times to get messages out, but I think to Heather's point earlier, focusing on the things that have a large impact on your career may be the best investment of your time now. And we do also, while we didn't get any Q&A here today, Joshua is available to answer additional questions. Of course, you can reach out to myself or Kate perhaps as well. But happy to try to respond and answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I guess, Joshua, did you have a survey planned?
Yep. So I've just put it in the chat. It's a survey about today's webinar, what you found useful, what we can do better if we're going to do it again. There is also a section on that survey if you want to put your email address in if you have a question you'd like an answer from any of us or from any of the attendees. We can get that out to you, but you can also do it completely anonymously if you prefer.
Perfect. Well, I want to say thank you, Kate and Joshua, for the wonderful teamwork and opportunity to partner with this prestigious university and to actually, I think, really enhance and evolve something that was good, and now I think it's going to be far better because of this partnership. So this is a wonderful opportunity for me personally. I want to thank Heather and Jerry and Holly for taking the time out in this really busy time to be here, and I want to thank everybody who's attended today for taking the time out of your schedule to be here. We will follow up. We'll put the link to the recording in a nice little follow-up email. And if you have questions, please let us know, and please help us spread the word because we'd love your support in doing that, getting more folks exposed to this wonderful program. Anything else, Kate or Joshua or panelists that you'd like to add before we go?
Thank you, Tim, for putting this together and for giving us a chance to share this amazing program.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the week and good luck with reopening school.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.